Good evening, everybody. We're all settled now. Welcome back, Emma. Thank you. Apologies for absence. I don't think we have any, do we? No?
Councillor Morris.
Oh, Councillor Morris, our independent, he's still not well. So we wish him a speedy recovery. 2, declarations of interest and lobbying. Have we had any? And I think that is for item 8, which is now item 1.
Okay, let each member
Pardon?
let each member declare their own interest.
Yes. Right, I've been told that we must all declare our own interest. Mine is, it would have been item 8, which is now item 1. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As members will know, you and me are the councillors for the same ward of Nevermain, and I do a regular newsletter. On my most recent newsletter, I reference this application, but as I know you're a member of this committee, I made sure you never saw a copy, which left me with all 6,000 to deliver, and Councillor Murphy, my colleague, refused to help out leafleting, as he might have to substitute, he thought, which I thought was smart on his part. But that newsletter, only I have seen out of our group. You've got your own views, which are what they should be.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Baker?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just my usual disclosures. I think I've mentioned at previous meetings. I am a former employee of Ford Motor Company, now Ford pensioner, worked at Ford Dunton. I also have a member of my immediate family who works at that facility. So given that one of the items on the agenda is there, I will disclose it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, I'm part of Members Director of Sempre Home, so I will exclude myself from which is now the first part. Thank you.
No more? Okay. We go on to item 3, which is confirmations of the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 13th of November. All those in favour, please show. Oh, yeah. And we have Councillor Callaghan, you wasn't here, was you, so it's abstention? Okay. Thank you. Before we start, I'm going to have to read this out because we have visitors this evening. Planning Committee where members of the public are present. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee. We are recording the meeting this evening using our webcasting system. The webcast will be transmitted live and will also be available on the Council's website following the meeting. Generally, the public seating area are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating areas, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and training purposes. I have the discretion to stop or suspend the recording of the meeting should this be necessary to maintain the proper running of the meeting. This is a meeting of the Council held in public. It is not a public meeting. All mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so that this meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. Anyone else attending to film or audio recording any part of the meeting is asked to do so in a manner that does not disrupt the meeting. Please refrain from filming the public gallery or public speakers on items. If the fire alarm sounds, leave by the nearest exit and the officers will advise when it is safe to return to the meeting. Procedures for each item. The planning officer will present their report and committee members will ask any points of clarification. The meeting will allow those who have given notice that they wish to address the committee on a particular application to do so. Each person will be invited to come forward to the table at the front of the public seating area and will have 3 minutes to give their views. Thank you. As I said, we've got a bit of a change tonight, so instead of item 4 going first, we will have item 8. Which is planning application number 2400857 full. Proposed erection of a freestanding drive-through restaurant, landscaping and associated works, including customers' order displays and alterations to existing car park area at car park to the front of Homebase, London Road, Vange, Essex. And I believe that is you, Ellie. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So, to start, the application site is on London Road, Vange, and it lies at the edge of an existing car park, which serves an existing home-based store, and it is also located within the Greenbelt. The application site, outlined in red on the map, it's in total, there's approximately 260 existing car parking spaces, and they're all provided for the home-based store. The site has extensive tarmac and hard standing together with comprehensive lighting. The site lies adjacent to London Road and immediately east of the A176 and north of the A13, providing connections to the A13 strategic road network and the A176. Access to the site is through a priority junction from London Road towards Vange, as well as in the surrounding area where there's a used vehicle dealership adjacent, as well as residential dwellings. Around the A13 junction, there's existing service facilities, also including a Premier Inn hotel and an accompanying pub and restaurant. These are some site photos taken from the southern western boundaries of the site. The first two are the main location of where this site will be located, and then in the further photos you can see a bit more of the home-based car park and the existing home-based site itself. So, planning permission is sought for a single-storey freestanding McDonald's restaurant with a drive-through and associated works to the site. The proposal is for both the sale of food and drink for consumption on and off the premises. The building will be located adjacent to the southern boundary of the existing home-based car park. However, the proposal specifically includes for the provision of 3 accessible bays, 2 grill bays, 2 electric vehicle charging bays, 4 Sheffield cycle stands, and providing 8 cycle parking spaces for customers and 4 motorbike spaces. The proposal also includes an outdoor seating area, which is a patio, and 2 customer order displays with canopies. An external corral, which is an outdoor enclosure, forming part of the building, is provided for delivery and refuse purposes. The restaurant will be open 24 hours, Monday to Sunday. Deliveries for the McDonald's will be scheduled to occur within 4-hour delivery slots, 3 to 5 times per week during quiet trading periods, using a 16.6 articulated delivery vehicle. Refuse collections for the McDonald's will be scheduled to occur using a private contractor 3 times per week during quiet trading periods, also using a refuse vehicle. So the relevant planning history can be found on page 142 of the agenda. In respect of consultations, Highways have raised no objections, subject to conditions. Essex County Council Sustainable Drainage Systems, they've also raised no objection after there were some minor revisions to the flood risk assessment and drainage strategy and model. They did not object to this planning permission. Ecology also had no objections, subject to conditions. The Essex Police Design Out Crime Officer also had no objections, subject to a condition regarding secure by design accreditation. The Historic Buildings and Conservation Advisor at Essex County Council also raised no objections. The Arcology, Essex Place Services, they also raised no objections. Essex County Council Fire and Rescue Service raised no objections. Essex Place Services Landscaping also raised no objections, and they confirmed that they're satisfied with the level of information submitted with regards to the proposed hard and soft landscaping at the site, and they concur with the poor landscape value that's identified in the submitted landscape visual and Greenbelt appraisal. The Essex Badger Protection Group, they had no objections, the same for the Arboriculture Officer. Environmental Health also had no objections, and they confirmed that the methodology and findings outlined in the odour control assessment, noise impact assessment, constructural environmental management plan, Phase 1 desktop study report and delivering and services hours were all acceptable from Environmental Health, and they raised no objections. There was also no objections from Refuse and Cleansing, our Urban Design Officer, our Leisure and Open Space and Community Facilities Officer, Economic Development. Councillor Kerry Smith, who made a call-in on this application the 7th of September, in which the outlined reason for the requested call-in was for the proposal being out of keeping with the area. In respect of neighbours, there was 50 surrounding neighbours that were consulted. There was also a site notice and a press notice, and there was 19 objections received. These concerns are outlined on page 145 of the report, and they're also addressed within the assessment. The relevant planning policy can be found on page 145 and 146 of the agenda. So these are just following a bit more from the proposal. This is the proposed floor plan and the roof plan, and these are the proposed elevations and the sections. So to start off with the principle of development, the NPPF outlines for planning applications for main town centre uses that are neither in an existing centre nor in accordance with an up-to-date plan have to be subject to a sequential test. This has been provided by the applicant in this case, and this explores main town centre uses, and it explores the ones that are located in town centres, then in the edge of town centre locations, and only if suitable sites are not available should out-of-centre sites be considered. In this instance, the applicant outlines that the proposed development requires 0.3 hectares of available space, with viably to support a restaurant, drive-through lane and associated parking. The applicant have also outlined in the sequential test that the drive-through lane is an integral part of the proposed development, and the restaurant and drive-through cannot be segregated as outlined in the sequential test. The test itself does explore potential town centre locations, in only which one location was identified. However, this has already been identified for residential development, and officers note that this is now being built out at this potential site. It also demonstrates that all potential town centre sites have been thoroughly assessed, but they do not provide suitable for the proposed development. The test then further explores edge of town centre sites, and again, this was not found suitable for the development, and therefore, through this sequential test, we feel that it's been successfully demonstrated that there are no suitable town centre nor edge of town centre sites suitable for this proposed development. In respect of the Greenbelt, the application site is on Greenbelt, and paragraph 152 of the NPPF does state that inappropriate development is by definition harmful to the Greenbelt and should only be approved in very special circumstances. In respect of this application, there is other harm other than appropriate that needs to be assessed, and that's through the Greenbelt review. So Basildon Borough Council's previous Greenbelt review in 2017 identified the application being located within the southern end of parcel 59, and that review concludes that the parcel does not contribute to purposes 2 and 4. And there is the tables within the agenda for you to look at. The most recent Greenbelt review identifies the application site being in parcel BA SE5, and as set out in the report, this parcel results in moderate harm to purposes 1 and 3, and low to no harm to purposes 2 and 4. In terms of purpose A, this is to do with checking the unrestricted sprawl of large built-up areas, and the review considers that the site's contribution to this function is moderate. The site is bounded by road infrastructure on either side of the site and sporadic built development to the east and south within this parcel of land, and it's relatively self-contained. The site partially contributes to purpose C, as making a contribution towards protecting the countryside from encroachment. However, this site, being an existing hard-standing car park, is not reflective of the countryside, and it is currently bounded by road and existing infrastructure. The proposed development also includes additional areas of supplemental structural planting and landscaping, which will complement and enhance the existing defensible boundary of established tree and vegetation planting that's already on site. This will establish a clear separation between the site and the surrounding area and protect the wider area from greenbelt encroachment. Another key consideration in this instance is the impact on the openness of this development on the greenbelt. The existing site itself represents an enclosed site with a clearly defined development footprint. This includes an existing underutilised car park. together with Homebase itself and the associated features of that site. The physical association with aspects beyond the site boundary is reduced by the existing enclosure on site. Just get that up again to show that boundary. And it is reduced by this extensive tree planting, which inhibits any connection with the external areas. Again, the site is currently used for car parking, and therefore it already sees a lot of vehicular activity on the site, together with extensive car parking lighting columns, and being just located on a hard stand in itself, screened from the street scene and forming an existing urbanised character. The nature of the change will have a limited impact on the openness of the greenbelt. Overall, whilst it's acknowledged that it would cause harm to the greenbelt by virtue of the definition of inappropriate development, the harm is considered limited in respect of the aspects I just mentioned, and therefore it needs to be considered if there's any very special circumstances in order to justify the proposed development. So the applicant has outlined within their planning statement the very special circumstances in this case are economic and sustainability benefits, site-specific circumstances, landscaping and site enhancements. It is noted that the site-specific circumstances outlined by the applicant are not considered to be a very special circumstance in this instance. But however, it is important to note that these site-specific circumstances do result in a limited harm to the greenbelt. The resulting very special circumstances are economic benefits. So the applicant has advised that the proposed development will create approximately 120 jobs with a mixture of part-time and full-time roles. The applicants have advised that in 2017, McDonald's supported 623 jobs in Basildon, 528 in their restaurants and 95 in the supply chain and wider economy. Total contribution of McDonald's to the Basildon Borough economy is already at approximately 10 million. The nature of the proposed development is as such that overall it will provide a moderate economic benefit to the local economy, both during the construction and post-construction phases. Accordingly, the economic benefits that are identified would carry substantial weight in favour of the scheme. The applicant also advises a very special circumstance of sustainability benefits. So the modular build outlined for the restaurant enables a thermal wrap with installation. There's a canopies for passive solar gain in winter, water efficiency measures, there's excellent standards in terms of the electrical vehicle charging spaces, the panels on the roof, a green living wall, and high specification landscape features and planters. And this special circumstance would carry limited weight in the favour of the scheme. The last special circumstance explored is the landscaping, and B&G. The proposal includes a lot of additional areas of supplement structural planting and landscaping, which will enhance the existing boundary of the established tree and vegetation plantings which already face onto the street scene. The landscape, visual and greenbelt appraisal, which was submitted with the application, has assessed the landscape character and the contribution of the site to the greenbelt purposes, and it concludes that the landscape and visual effects of the proposed development are likely to be limited to receptors within close proximity to the site boundary. There will be a small amount of existing trees and vegetation being removed. However, the majority of this will be retained, and there will be 20 new trees and 483 shrubs, as well as approximately 33 hedges and 38 hedges. These landscape additions will be sited within the site and also further into the Homebase car park itself. With the current landscape master plan, a B&G net gain can be delivered on the site with a gain of 0.08 habitat units. The proposed landscape plans do achieve 10% biodiversity net gain, and therefore these landscaping enhancements would carry moderate weight in favour of the scheme. Therefore, on balance, it is considered that the harm to the greenbelt is limited by the site's enclosed nature in its existing use and its moderate contributions to the purposes of the greenbelt and the very special circumstances outlined. Officers consider that on balance the benefits would outweigh the harm of the greenbelt in this instance. In respect of design and layout, the proposed building would be single storey and it would measure approximately 26 metres in width, 30 metres in depth with a maximum height of 5.8 metres. The building and the associated works are considered to be well designed and of a modest scale, and in keeping with the usual style and layout of a freestanding drive-through restaurant. The building location is sufficiently set away from the principal boundary of the site, and the inclusion of existing proposed trees and greenery on the southern boundary will partly screen the building from the street scene, and as such the proposal is not considered to harm the character and appearance of the surrounding area or the application site itself. In respect of the impact on neighbouring amenity, the closest surrounding neighbouring occupiers in respect of this site would be the residential properties to the south of the site on London Road. I made an error in my report, so I apologise for this. So I said that the neighbouring properties would be approximately 31 metres set away, but that was to the boundary. It's actually 45 metres from the front wall of the new building to the front wall of the neighbouring properties. So that's actually 45 metres. And the scale of the building proposed and the sufficient separation distance between the application site and these neighbouring properties and the green screening on the boundary is not considered to be detrimental to the visual and residential amenities of these closest neighbouring occupiers. In respect of parking and highway issues, as previously advised, Essex County Council have raised no objections to this application. The drive-through restaurant would be constructed on the southern section, and the vehicular access to and from will not be changed. The Highway Authority have confirmed that there's been no recorded incidents associated with this use of the access. In respect of parking spaces, it would result in a loss of 93 parking spaces in the existing car park. The transport statement submitted confirms a total of 157, however, will be retained for both use of the proposed site and for the use of the home base site. A parking impact assessment has also been undertaken, and it does demonstrate that in Friday and Saturday peaks, sufficient vehicle parking would be available to serve both the existing home base store and the proposed McDonald's site. In addition, the site is also accessible by foot, cycle and public transport. The proposal, of course, shares the wider home-based car park. However, the proposal specifically includes for the provision of parking for its own site, as well as the majority of the rest of the home-based site. There would be 3 to 5 deliveries per week, and they would be scheduled per quiet trading periods, as previously outlined in my introduction. The transport statement that has been submitted and reviewed by the Highway Authority demonstrates that vehicle movements associated with the proposed development could be accommodated on this existing highway network. Therefore, it's not considered, given the support from the Highway Authority and the assessment of the documents provided, that it would not have a detrimental impact on highway safety, capacity or efficiency. In respect of noise and odour control, briefly mentioned this in the consultations. Environmental Health have assessed the provided statements and assessments. They're specifically a noise impact assessment that's reviewed the impacts of the development and also outlined necessary mitigation measures. Environmental Health have confirmed that the methodology and findings within this noise assessment are acceptable, including the delivery and the servicing and the opening hours. The proposed plant noise levels have also been assessed, and Environmental Health have confirmed that this is acceptable in respect of the nearest noise sensitive premises subject to a condition. There also has been an odour control assessment in respect of smells and the proximity of the sensitive receptors in terms of the actual site itself and neighbours, and that's been considered within that assessment. And Environmental Health have confirmed that they're happy with the methodology and the findings within this odour control assessment. And there has been a condition to secure that is adhered to. In terms of lighting, there's no issues, and there has been a lighting impact assessment secured on the planning permission to ensure there is no impact on these neighbouring occupiers. There's also no issues in terms of contamination, and as advised, the Phase 1 investigation report has been assessed by the Environment and Health Department, and they've raised no objections. The proposal has also been considered in the context of heritage assets. So the closest heritage assets in this instance are the Five Bell Inn, which is a Grade 2 listed public house, which is 200 metres away from the site, and the Church of All Saints. The Landscape Visual and Green Belt appraisal outlines that the site has no relationship with these heritage assets, and the Essex County Council Historic Buildings and Conservations team confirmed that due to the scale and the massing of the site itself, there would be no impact on the significance of these heritage assets due to the change within their settings, and therefore the listed buildings would be preserved in this instance. Archaeology were consulted, and they also raised no issues, and they outlined that there would be no further works in respect of archaeology. The Design Out Crime Officer has also been consulted. in terms of antisocial behaviour, on page 156 of your report, there's a quote from the planning statement which talks about the protocols and the safety and security that McDonald's will take in respect of this site. That includes antisocial behaviour in terms of extreme cases as well as general. And they will have outlined they will be working in partnership with the local police in order to help reduce the crime and disorder. And there will be the usual security measures for a McDonald's site. The applicants have confirmed that the home-based car park will be closed off from the site after its opening hours, so there'll be 3 collapsible bollards within the car park itself and a barrier on the main access road, so that after the closing hours of home-based, only the McDonald's site can be accessed at that time, and that is to avoid some antisocial behaviour in and around the site. And the resulting amount of parking with the parking shut off from the home-based site is still sufficient. In respect of flooding, again, there's been no issues with this. A drainage strategy has been submitted and the SUDS team have raised no objections. Same for ecology. This was briefly mentioned in the special circumstances. So this does achieve a 10% biodiversity net gain. Ecology, they've reviewed the scheme and they're happy, subject to conditions, and it's considered that it would not be, the proposal would not have any harm to any priority species or give a rise to an adverse ecological impact. In respect of the trees, there is an arboricultural method statement, and that concludes that the proposal requires a loss of 6 trees, none of which are category A, but there is substantial mitigation providing a net gain which will enhance the amenity and the ecological value of the site. There will be a small amount of existing vegetation being removed, but there is a lot of as said before, there's a lot of trees and herbs which will make up for this, and the arboriculture officer had no objections. In respect of health and wellbeing, paragraph 96 of the MPPF does emphasise that planning policies and decisions should strive to create healthy and inclusive and safe environments. In this instance, the regulation of takeaway food proposals is a source of conflict for this, and it's often perceived to have severe detrimental effects. The PPG also outlines some health and safety aspects in order to improve health. However, we feel that the proposal in this meets all them policies, and it includes measures to mitigate odour, noise and traffic impact, all of which have been assessed within this application. And the proposal would not lead to an over-proliferation of such uses. In respect of the community, as balanced against the above, this would create a significant amount of jobs in the locality. And the applicant has advised that they operate extensive community engagement programmes, fun football, and this programme delivers is aiming to deliver over 1 million children access to free football coaching. The council was committed to supporting community groups and facilities, including nearby to the application site itself, and in accordance with the obligation strategy and paragraph 96 of the MPPF, the applicant has agreed to a financial contribution in this instance of £1,000 towards community facilities and services. There's also been a contribution secured in respect of B&G monitoring, which is a payment of £4,000 prior to use commencing in a single payment, and then some sums at yearly. The council's professional fees associated with the preparation and completion of the legal agreement also be required in the legal monitoring fees. Therefore, the existing site does present an enclosed site with a clearly defined development footprint. It's currently used for car parking. It sees existing vehicular activity, extensive car parking columns. Its location and how outstanding, it's screened from the street scene. And it's considered the nature of the change will have a limited impact on the openness of the green belt. The special circumstances has been discussed, and on balance it's considered that the harm to the green belt is limited by virtue of the site's enclosed nature and its moderate contribution to the purposes 1 and 3, and together with very special circumstances. Therefore, officers are recommending approval on this application, subject to the Section 106 agreement for financial contributions towards community facilities and services, being biodiversity net gain monitoring, and the conditions set out on page 160 to 167. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie, for a very comprehensive report. I shall open it for clarifications now. Any? Alex?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few. On the the mixture of part-time and full-time roles, do we know roughly what the mixture will be? How many part-time to full-time there will be? Sort of 80-20, 70-30? That.
I don't think that's specifically outlined within my report. I think it's outlined just a mixture. There's not any specific ratio to that, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Hopefully it is. They do give plenty of full-time roles to people who need them most. And then around the car parking, you mentioned that the sort of home-based section will be closed off at night to prevent antisocial behaviour there. During the day, will the whole site be open so people can park in the home-based bit if they want to go to McDonald's and vice versa?
Yeah, that's correct. So the only time there'll be a separation between both them car parks is when Homebase is closed. So that's the only time there'll be that separation. If Homebase is open with the opening hours, then there will be no separation between the two. So yeah, car parking could be required on both the McDonald's site and the Homebase site.
Okay, thanks. And then last one for now, around this one being 24/7. Obviously, we have 6 other McDonald's in the borough. All of them are either on or south the A127. Is this the only one that's 24/7? My worry for that is that at sort of 2, 3, 4 in the morning, when people are, this will be the only one that is being used. The majority of use at that time, I imagine, would be from sort of Deliveroo and takeaways rather than people actually going in. But yeah, my concern is that there'll be a lot of traffic around that time, especially on a Friday and Saturday night, if this is the only McDonald's in the entire borough that's available at that time.
Yeah, so from my memory, I know that the Pitsy one in, I think, is it Pitsy Retail Park? It's good. That's 24 hours. Obviously, in terms of noise assessment, that has been impact assessment has been provided, and Environment Health were happy with the methodology and findings. Same goes for the traffic. There has been an assessment in respect of that, which assessed, I think, mentioned in that report about the high and peak hours. And just general hours, and again that was found acceptable by the Highway Authority.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Eddie. Just wondered whether the, because I spoke a lot about this before, but this has been assessed against paragraph 96C of the NPPF.
Paragraph 96 as a whole, yes.
Emma?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the officer for producing such a comprehensive report. May I ask for some more detail on how the application failed to meet the high test of very special circumstances?
Sorry, in terms of, there's been, in terms of moderate and limited weight, is that what you mean in terms of failing the higher test?
Yeah, so in paragraph 5.1.19, the point that I was interested in was the site-specific circumstances outlined by the applicant are not considered to be very special circumstances in this instance.
Yes, so sorry, so what that means is that obviously they've outlined a specific set of special circumstances. We then assess and assess them against, in terms of the justification within the green belt. All the other aspects shared we agreed with were a special circumstance, but the site-specific circumstances, which in this instance is it's on existing hard standing, it's got significant boundary, we don't class that as a very special circumstance in this instance, and it's just a site-specific. And whilst that contributes in terms of limiting the harm to the green belt, we didn't consider that to be a very special circumstance, but it is a positive impact in terms of limiting the impact on the green belt. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Ellie. So my understanding is that this is a parcel of Greenbelt, which is next to a golf club and a nature reserve, but the fact that it's already tarmacked over, the applicant said, you know, that should be a consideration because it's not a kind of raw parcel of land. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly that. So because of the reasons why it has a limited impact on the openness, because of how the site is currently and how it is laid out and the aspects on the site, so that definitely contributes to the limited impact on the openness. But yeah, that they put it forward, but we didn't agree that it was, but the other special circumstances were, and we've given weight to them in that respect.
Hi again, sorry, just to clarify. So the other special circumstances, is that the economic benefit and everything that you outlined before?
Yeah, so that's the economic benefits, that's the sustainability benefits, and that's the landscaping and site enhancements. They're the three special circumstances in this instance that have been considered.
And just to round off, Ellie, thank you. From my understanding, they were all moderate, is that right?
Two moderate and one limited.
Thank you, that's all, thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Anybody else? No? Right. If there's no more questions, I will go into asking the member here that is representing McDonald's, I think, which is Charlie Brown. Would you like to come forward? You have 3 minutes to speak. If you press the button, red button in front of you. Okay?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Charlie Brown and I'm a planning consultant at Planware and I'm speaking on behalf of McDonald's. Our development team has worked closely with your officers throughout the application process, including at pre-application stage, and we are pleased that officers are recommending approval of the application before you. I want to use this opportunity to tell you more about McDonald's and our commitment to investing in and supporting the local community in Basildon. We understand the importance of being a considerate and valuable part of the communities in which we operate. Our local franchisee is embedded in the local community in Basildon, works with several organisations such as Building Minds, a charity dedicated to working with the youth of Basildon, in addition to sponsoring local women's and youth football teams at Pitsea Town. Tackling antisocial behaviour is a key part of delivering the best possible customer experience, and the safety and security is a top priority. All restaurants maintain a strict protocol to minimise customer noise, and shift managers receive conflict resolution training to ensure they can deal effectively with antisocial behaviour. To manage the car park, we will install bollards and raised curbs to limit the use of the car park outside the opening hours for home base. More widely, in March we launched a new programme in partnership with BBC Children in Need to support young people whose challenging lives prevent them from getting access to opportunities. This includes fundraising to support hundreds of qualified youth workers in communities over the next 5 years, and partnering with specialist charities to create grassroots programmes in football and music, and with over 100 pilot programmes now up and running in the UK. We are very active in working to ensure we keep the places we live and work in as clean and tidy as possible, and all our restaurants carry out at least 3 litter patrols every day. And we recognise the importance of public health and are helping our customers to make more balanced choices. McDonald's was the first major restaurant to display nutritional information on menu boards some 30 years ago, and 54% of our menu is now classified as not high in salt, fat or sugar, and 90% of our core food and drinks menu is 500 calories or under in the UK. Alongside this, sustainability is a key part of McDonald's plan for change, which includes our commitment to achieving net zero emissions across all our restaurants by 2030 and achieving net zero emission across our entire business supply chain by 2040. All of the electricity in this restaurant will come from 100% renewable sources, and we plan to source all our packaging from renewable and recyclable materials by the end of this year. Over 80% of our kitchen waste is recycled. In summary, we believe there are many benefits this application will deliver, both for the local economy and the local community. Alongside your officer's recommendation, we hope members of this committee will feel able to support this application. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you. I'd now like to call Councillor Kerry Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm going to wear both hats tonight, being the local Essex County Council and Borough Councillor. I'll deal with our old friends, Essex Highways. If Mr Magoo was looking for a job, he'd fit in wonderfully there. And just as a bit of background reference, I refer to the HMO application in Grove Avenue, where they admitted they only looked on Google Street View and never went down of an evening where there was a parking problem. Now, those of you who are most senior, and I probably look towards Councillor Blake when I say this, that the A13 was built as a bypass road for London Road Vange to take the pressure off the traffic. Now just think about it. A lot of my constituents, a lot of your constituents, often use the Dartford crossing to come back from work, and you can imagine it, long old day, done them extra hours, self-employed, and if they know there's a McDonald's here, they're going to come off the A13 all hours of the day and night. Now before I carry on that journey, for those of you who come down the south of Nevermain to join the A13, during peak hours it can be gridlocked and you're just sitting there stopping and starting and starting and stopping. So for Essex Highways, just on that point, to say they're not a problem, they need to come down and have a look. So this is going to cause more congestion. We already have the air ambulance hub on the Nevermain, and that isn't just used willy-nilly, that's really serious cases. And those seconds being deprived of a patient can make or break someone's life. So that's the first part about the traffic concerns. So if we go back to where I was going on, and you're going to have people 24 hours a day coming off the A13. This is why, with respect to McDonald's, why they have chosen this site. It's a 24-hour site right by the A13. If this is passed tonight, at some point in the future, on this Greenbelt site, they're going to want one of those huge McDonald's signs. So when people are coming up the A13, think, do you know what? That saves washing up. I go and have a Mackie D's. That's what you're going to hear. And with respect to the officer, Madam Chairman, she talks about inflatable bollards. With respect, if you look at the Pitsy McDonald's, there's always graffiti on the wall. I know the councillors present and past have fought hard to get it repainted, but it's constantly getting graffitied. You get the boy races there. Yes, I know some curfew zones have been put there, but that requires a police officer to attend and things like that. If you put inflatable bollards there, just take their Stanley knife, there it goes, and 2, 3 o'clock in the morning be zipping round. Now, the out of keeping with the area argument I put forward in this to become to committee. The way I would ask you to look at this home base site as a garden centre that sells wallpaper, and sadly they're going bust, and I feel sorry for all those staff that are going to lose their job. Now, if you approve this application tonight, all those other garden centres on the A127, they can think, well, if the home base site in Vange by the A13 is good enough, why can't my garden centre put a McDonald's in its car park? It's easy money, isn't it? It's good business. So you'll be setting a precedence. And when you, again, look at that home base site, if you took the word home base off the front and just put Joe Bloggs Garden Centre, it is all but a garden centre that sells wallpaper. It is. And then we talk about Greenbelt. So the lights will be on in that car park 24 hours a day. When you drive along the Nevermain, you see butting onto the site those signs, conservation area. And those of us who will know, who's retired from it, Rod Cole, who got the Alf Dove Award for his work on the Langdon Ridge, that area is full of pipistrelle bats. So if you leave those lights on 24 hours a day, it will confuse the pipistrelle bats and their feeding habits, because they come out at twilight to eat their invertebrates. That's why we only cut a part of the grass on the Nevermain, leave a square to overgrow for a couple of years, then cut it to help breed invertebrates. And it's the pipistrelle bats that feed and feast off them. And a 24-hour car park there will disturb, in autumn and spring, the feeding patterns of the pipistrelle bat. Everybody knows from 7 o'clock at night, home base is closed, except for a Sunday at 4 o'clock. So when they're closed, it doesn't disturb the flora and fauna. And I know I'm going to slightly go off what we should be talking about at planning, but McDonald's has slightly, so I think I need to counteract that. Just a short distance away is Vange Primary School. And my constituents who live nearby, the ones who live on the council estate side of London Road, said to me, in all horrific terms, please don't let this pass. Or I'm just going to get pester power from the kids after school. I won't do my homework unless you get me a Happy Meal, yada, yada, yada. And that area hasn't got a lot of money. They work hard, they do everything they can, and if this McDonald's passes, you're not going to make their life any better. It's going to have a health impact on them. Thank you, members and Madam Chairman, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I don't think we have any more people to talk on this, so I can open it up to committee now. Alex?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've got a few points, so bear with me, I'll get through them all. Yeah, I mean, Councillor Smith hit the nail on the head with the Vange Primary School. It is probably my biggest concern on this, as well as being on the Greenbelt and various other things. There was something that came to licensing committee, or it was in the press that it was coming to licensing committee. I think we managed to stop it before it came a few years ago in my ward, Lee Chapel North, where there was a sort of a takeaway burger van that was going to get seeking licensing permission just outside James Hornsby School. And thankfully that was put a stop to, because that would have really impacted the children's health there, I'm sure. And this is absolutely no different. As Councillor Smith rightly says, it's the easiest place in the world to get to from Vange Primary School straight after school on a Friday night. So I can't see how that will benefit the local community in any way. As I mentioned during my technical questions, there are 6 McDonald's in the borough. All of them are either on or south of the A127. The one just up the road in Pitsea is 24 hours. This one, as the officer correctly said, is not in a town centre or near a town centre site, which does open up the fact that, as Councillor Smith says, this is basically going to be a de facto service station for the A13, as well as for sort of children coming out of the Vange Primary School. I have big concerns around the 24-hour and the fact that there'll be people going in there searching for a McDonald's after a night out on a Friday and Saturday, and then also delivery drivers all hours of the night disturbing the people just across the road in their homes. I'm a bit perplexed really as to why this site's owned by Sampra. I always thought that the purpose of Sampra was to build homes for people in Basildon, not to build McDonald's. I have concerns around the obesity rates in Espet, the South Wales and East Thurrock, which is the constituency in the borough with the highest obesity rate, and putting another McDonald's slap bang in the middle of there is a large concern to me. I have concerns around how many of the roles that we mentioned, the 120 roles, are going to be part-time compared to full-time. I know that we don't have an answer for that, and so I'm happy to be corrected if it does turn out that these are all well-paid full-time roles, but something tells me that won't be the case at all. The fact that there are 19 out of 50 objections is frankly unprecedented. You don't even get that on Greenbelt sites in Billericay, so it just goes to show the opposition to it locally. And yeah, there are very few things that I can see in favour of this application, but obviously I'll hear the arguments from everybody else.
Thank you, Alex. Kevin?
That's some very interesting comments there. Very interesting to see that, because there's a lot of protests. They want to build on Greenbelt. Let's hope the same thing applies over in Billericay on the local plan. A couple of things that confuse me. First of all, with respect, I'm not saying we're on for or against this application yet. All you really spoke about was what McDonald's have done. You wasn't actually speaking about the application, and it should have all been about the application rather than what they've done for the borough, as far as I'm concerned. Totally irrelevant, because I think I expressed before this meeting, I am not a McDonald's fan at all. So really, but that's going to make my decision on this, because it's actually got to be the application you've got to do. It's nonsense to say they've done this for the borough and that for the borough. It's irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. It's about this particular application. We had similar sort of problems when we were looking at whilst not Greenbelt, the Fortune War McDonald's, which is extremely close to the public, the residents' housing. I mean, a lot closer than what we're talking about now, but that went through. I get and it was very interesting in some of the comments regarding the Greenbelt. It is Greenbelt, and you know what my views are on Greenbelt. And I know that with respect, Alex has said in the past, if it's an untidy place and you tidy it up, then it's a reason for building on Greenbelt. And that's been mentioned many times by yourself. Well, this is an example where that possibly could be the case, where you are actually doing the place up, making it look better than what it is. A couple of things that I don't agree with. Obviously, where they've done the noise and the odour. That had car valeting place Sunday morning. Cars ticking, queues and queues to get there. If people know the area, they know that I'm absolutely right. There was queues and queues, most days actually, for cars to be cleaned right down where we're actually talking. Queues, with their engines pumping non-stop, taking up quite a large... So the odour, you know, you're talking about the smell of that, of the food, but we were talking about the engines ticking over and the fumes coming from that, which is far worse. A noise again, you've got noise of the engines ticking over, you had it then, and you'll have that to a degree now. But let's also get back to this odour. There is already, let's be absolutely blunt about it, there is already a very large food place on that actual site already. I'm assuming that we all know about that. It's there 24/7 more, not 24/7. It's actually stationed there, but the burger bar is there basically not non-stop. So we're actually sort of talking about they might lose a few jobs there, and that's a shame if anything happens in there. But creating a job with a company that have got a reputable company and do a good job with their buildings. So I have some. I see where you're coming from, but when you actually think, well, it's already got a burger van on there, which no one's complained about. Probably some of these people who are along here actually don't even know it exists, but believe me, it exists. You had a car van in place, which but fumes coming off it. It was years and years it was there. It has now moved. I don't agree. Not often I disagree with Kerry, and that is actually Jerry. I don't agree. It's a garden centre. They do electrical, bathrooms, kitchens, lighting. That's nonsense to categorise it as one of the garden centres, to be absolutely honest. So I had a lot of issues there. The huge signs, I go along with that. I don't want a huge sign, but this application hasn't got about a huge sign in it, has it? Or has it?
There's 2 applications for advertisement consent, which is awaiting pending of the outcome of this application.
But it's not for this application. So
it will be for this site, but we haven't assessed the 2
Agreed. So we can't
yet.
take that in consideration, the actual sign. So we can't even consider that as a rationale for refusing it, what they might have in the future. I think, out of keeping to the area, cars ticking over at a valeting place right near a burger van. Where's McDonald's? It's going to have cars ticking over right near a McDonald's, a lot more sophisticated place. So I really am seriously still on the fence about that. But you know, I'm just putting the other side of the case. There's a lot more to it than that. I don't like McDonald's. Openly admit I don't like McDonald's. However, what they're asking to put in there is not unreasonable for what is already there. My issue again, as always been, has been the green belt. You know my views on green belt, and I've been pretty consistent on that. I have a lot more sympathy for care homes going on green belt, and if anyone looks at my record, you'll find that I have no problem with that. Again, I don't have a problem of where it's in close proximity of others, because if you actually look at Stacey's Corner, probably 80% of Stacey's Corner is fast food. You know, whether it be bakers, Chinese, Indian, pizza, you go on. Anyone knows Stacey's Corner knows that literally 80% of them. And it is, if a person thinks that they can make a business going there, that is not for this committee to decide whether someone can or cannot make a go of a private enterprise. So we've got to judge it literally, which is why I rule out the fact that it's McDonald's in my head. Rule out all those and actually go down to the facts are. And the facts are some of these things that we're saying it's out of keeping actually are out there, have been there very recently.
Thank you, Kevin. We do understand you don't like McDonald's. Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Any more people wish to speak on it? Mike.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I think there are a number of issues surrounding this application, which my colleagues have articulated very well, so I won't cover those. But I think the up and down of this for me is that a proposal for the construction of a commercial facility in a greenbelt site like this, of this size and scale and nature, is a step in the wrong direction as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Mike. Councillor Alex.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for everyone's comments, some of them raised. I mean, I still have as Councillor Baker just mentioned, I mean, I know obviously this is a large, previously developed site on the Greenbelt, perhaps by old boundaries and things like that have been placed on there, and obviously with the home base site, which is now shut because they're now in administration. So the issue I have is with MPPF policy, paragraph 96C, which clearly states, so planning policies and decisions should aim to achieve healthy, inclusive and safe places and beautiful buildings, which, paragraph C, enable and support healthy lifestyles, especially where this would address identified local health and well-being needs. Basildon has a problem with heart disease, obesity, and other health issues, surrounded by fast food. I have a serious concern about that by having more and more being built in locations in the borough where we should be looking at more healthier options going forwards into places such as this for takeaways and things. I mean, we've already got 6. Mayflower is also 24 hours, Councillor Harrison, if you weren't aware. That's also 24 hours. So I understand that the gentleman, the planning agent, said 54% of their menu is low in salt. I mean, but 54% of their menu is going to be, you know, look at carrot sticks and all this and salads and things like that. You don't go to McDonald's to order a salad. You go and get a big tasty or a Big Mac, don't you? You know. So you don't do that. So it's ludicrous to say that. Say the menu offers 46 or 56% of their menu as being healthier options. The actual choice that people make when they go into these places isn't that 46, 56%. It's going to be something that's high in salt, high in fat, high in sugar. So I do have a concern about that, and I'm quite happy to write up after listening today and not seeing about this in the policy. I think this borough has to be very clear about its issues with obesity and ill health surrounding poor lifestyle choices is important, and I think we should use paragraph 96C as a genuine reason for refusal of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alex. Councillor Emma.
Thank you, Chair, for remembering. I just wanted to echo the sentiment from both Councillor Baker and Councillor Myers in that it's about a direction of travel. So in paragraph 5.1.12, it says that the existing development to the south of the parcel of land is classed as both sprawl and encroachment into the countryside. And with the absence of very special circumstances test being met, it becomes a judgment call of, you know, which direction we want to go in for this area of the borough. Do we want to continue, you know, adding fast food, high traffic areas and facilities to that area, or do we want to look at what's already in keeping with the area, which is a golf course, a nature reserve, which is all about, you know, enjoyment, health, lifestyle? Do we really want to, you know, change the face of this area and the direction of travel it will go in with a McDonald's drive-through? And that's a rhetorical question, but I just wanted to echo the points I've heard tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Is there anyone else wish to speak on it? Kevin.
If this does get refused on the grounds that that's been spoken about now about the health issue, where does that stand with the company or whatever that are actually doing fast food on there at the moment? Because if we're refusing it on the grounds of it's Greenbelt and we don't want a fast food station now, well, we've got fast food station on the Greenbelt now. So the question I've got to ask, if you're going to refuse it on that, are you then saying, I'm just using it, you're actually saying, as far as I can understand, then this council have got to go away and stop that as well, because that's got to be inappropriate to be on the Greenbelt if you're refusing in this one. Otherwise, you could have McDonald's appeal and say, how can you refuse it on the fact that this is it's a fast food place, you want people who are healthy, but you're allowing that to happen on Greenbelt and you have knowledge of it? That's an issue that I have, if that could be answered, because that would certainly help me. Because to me, they're both the same. And I'm just trying to, maybe you could say I'm defending McDonald's in that sense, but you can't say you can't have this because it's the obesity scenario, when you've actually got one already there that's doing exactly that. So will the council, if that gets refused on this, take action against the people? We need to know that sort of information.
Thank you, Kevin. I think Mr Sweeney would like to talk on that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Blake. Yeah, so just looking at the planning history, I can't see any planning applications for the burger van, so we can certainly raise it with the enforcement team. And
I mean, I know that sounds really cruel, but it really...
Rock up for a bacon sandwich at that. They're very different to people coming from all across Essex.
And it's closed after the school.
You can't...
It's a local.
You can't say it.
It's a local. You know, it's like Basildon kebab. It's that.
So a local business is okay, but a national business isn't. That's what you're saying. So we're refusing. If you're saying that, they're going to go straight to appeal and win it on appeal, purely on the basis you've just said publicly that it's okay for a local business to be on there, but it's not okay for McDonald's to be on there. That's wrong.
No, saying that.
I think, Kevin, that isn't what she said.
That was what she said.
No, it wasn't.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me come back in on that. So the officer kindly referenced the economic and business benefits of this, which was, you know, as Councillor Harrison has said, will be one of 6 existing McDonald's in the borough, maybe 7. We all know there's one in every corner, but still, the employment and the contribution that it makes to the economy is still moderate. So, you know, it's not kind of life-changing having McDonald's on there. And I would just say that the small burger van outside home base, I would just say it's not contributing on the same scale as McDonald's. So for a population of 200,000, every McDonald's in our borough services 37,500 people. You know, that burger van is not doing the same. So the health issues that we're kind of raising, or that Councillor Myers is raising, paragraph 96C, it's on a much larger scale with McDonald's than it is with a small burger van run by local Basildon people, servicing maybe 50 blokes who are working on the tools every day. So I just wanted to make that differentiation.
Thank you, Emma. Anybody else? Nobody else, right. I'd just like to make a contribution as well. I possibly think where McDonald's is, I mean, I like McDonald's and my grandchildren like McDonald's, but unfortunately we haven't got any in Billericay or Wickford. And well, at the moment we haven't. At the moment we haven't. And I must say, I haven't got nothing against McDonald's, but I do believe what Councillor Harrison said, Alex, you know, we have 6 within Basildon and none with any other part of the area. And, you know, my advice is it would be nice to have one in Billericay and Wickford because, as I said, I like McDonald's. I think it's probably out of character in the Green Belt. I have a problem with that. And the school, I used to be chairman of governors of that school, and I think it will be a bit of a problem there. And a lot of the residents are not happy. And when my residents are not happy, I'm not happy. So that's my contribution. You know, I like McDonald's, but I do believe it's in the wrong place. Thank you. Any contributions to this? I'd like to go into the recommendation. The planning application 2400857 will be granted planning permission subject to the completion of a 106 agreement to secure financial contributions towards local community facilities, biodiversity, net gain, monitoring and subject to the conditions set out in the end of the report with any amendments that might be necessary up to the issue of the decision notice. Can we vote now? All those in favour, please show. Any abstentions? Thank you, Councillor Blake. All those against? It now is... Now the application will be deferred. Thank you, everyone. We do need some grounds for actually refusing this. Can I ask my officer to... I'm going to ask to refuse this on Greenbelt, but is anybody else? Yes, Alex. Can you refuse it on that? Okay, yeah, okay. Emma?
Yeah, mine's on the very special circumstances limit, which is not out. Oh. Thank you, Chair. Sorry for the mishap there. But mine is the point on the very special circumstances test not fully being outweighed by moderate and limited benefits outlined. It's a judgment call for me because it doesn't reach the very special circumstances test. So I'm looking at the economic and sustainability benefits, and like I say, they're not big, they're not life-changing to Basildon. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Have you got all that? Yep. Right, thank you. Can we call Councillor Hillier to come back in, please? Ooh, ooh. Oh, sorry. All right then. Okay. Okay, we will now go back into the mode of how it was. So we go for agenda item 4, which is planning application number 2400720, VAR, variation of condition 2, approved drawings and supporting documents, condition 4, ecological impact assessment and reptile mitigation strategy, condition 13, access arrangements, and conditions 19, noise assessment attached to planning permission 2100744, demolition of existing dwelling and redevelopment to provide a new 76-bed care home, use class C2, together with associated access car and car parking, landscaping and amenity space provision at Fairview, Cox's Farm Road, Billericay, Essex, CM 11 2UB. And can I ask, I think it's Hannah. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Chair. So this application is located on the northern side of Cox's Farm Road in Billericay, at its junction with Southend Road in Billericay. So the site location to the south of the site is Cox's Farm Road and St Peter's Primary School. To the west is Southend Road, and to the north and the east are open fields. So this current application seeks a variation of conditions 2, which is the approved drawings, a condition 4, the ecological impact assessment, condition 13, the access arrangements, and condition 19, the noise assessment of the extant planning permission, which was granted planning permission in under 21/00744 for the construction of 72-bed residential care home. So, as mentioned, the principle of developing a care home has already been established and this application requires changes because Barchester Care Home has recently taken ownership of the site, and they require alterations to meet their operation needs and staffing requirements. I will now go through some of the proposed changes. So first of all, the first change is the building footprint, which has had some minor alterations. This is to help with the buffering to the south of the site, which faces Cox's Farm Road, and also repositioning of the ground floor surfaces. On this site plan, you can see where the adjustment is, so the red line, and where the proposed footprint will be. Overall, the changes, overall, it would be minor changes and minor alterations, and it would be not much difference. If I go on to the next part. So here are some of the changes. So on the left is the approved plans, and on the right is the proposed changes. So for the basement, there has been further development in the aspect of it's going to accommodate much of the back of house operation needs. Furthermore, at ground floor, the surfacing has been accommodated at the back, so it would not be immediately apparent. Also, the reception area has been slightly moved. If I go on to the next slide, so on the first floor, some of the rooms have been changed in terms of where there was previously a cinema multi-purpose room is to be replaced with like a cafe room, a cafe lounge and activity room with access to the terrace. And at second floor, there would be some changes, as you can see on the drawing as well. This would include some revisions to the terraced area as well. Some of the bedrooms, there has been a reduction in bedrooms from 76 to 64. This is to accommodate some of the changes that are needed by Barchester, as well as some of the sizes have been amended, reduced. However, these still do exceed the minimum standards for Care Quality Commission standards. And to the rear, on the northwest up here, there has been a staircase that has been introduced to the rear on the northwest elevation to enable access to the upper floor terraces and to comply with minimum escape distances. Overall, these internal changes, the overall floor area has been increased from 3,866 square metres to 4,062, but these have been essential to provide the contemporary care standards that are needed for this development. On the external elevation, there has been, on the southeast elevation, there has been 2 external open balconies to enable residents to have an enhanced access outside south-facing areas, and there's also been a patio area with doors that enable access to a patio area south-facing as well. I'm on the northeast elevation. I will flick between the 2 slides. The main entrance has been repositioned to enable a flow through to the courtyard area, and also the terraced area at first and second floor have been amended, redesigned. The single-storey element that I was talking about earlier has been realigned for the ground floor surfaces. So if I go on to the next page, you can see that on this area here. And as well, there has been a staircase which I talked about earlier to go to the terraced areas. on the southwest elevation, it's just been marginally reduced. But as you can see, the balcony has been introduced, as you can see. Overall, the materials will closely match those used in the consented scheme. There would now be some grey dark timber cladding on the gable projections rather than black weatherboarding, and there would be some white facing brick features. These would these would be acceptable in what has already been accepted. Overall, the design quality of the approved drawings has been preserved and it is appropriate and considered in the area. In terms of amenity space, I've already mentioned that there's going to be more balconies and ground floor patio areas, so these are in excess and are acceptable. In terms of hard and soft landscaping, there has been some positive changes to this. So there would be there would now be the requirement of 2 more individual trees and a hedgerow. However, when we spoke to the arboricultural officer, most of these trees and hedgerows are small, low quality trees and are of poor condition. There's included in the scheme, there is a soft landscaping. So I'll just go back to the site plan so you can see it better. This will include trees and shrubs around the periphery of the site. There will be a total of 12 new trees that will be planted on the western and northern elevations and in the car park. And as mentioned previously, the additional green buffer, which has been introduced on the southern boundary. Changes to the hard landscaping. So this is just redesigning the court area to have and the courtyard will have more like seating area, an activity lawn, and pockets of soft landscaping. There will also be some pergolas with benches, and and the roof terraces on the first and second floor have been redesigned. Redesigned to flow better. Overall, the proposed changes to the landscape would soften the northern, western and southern boundaries and would preserve the high quality landscaping as previously approved. Some of these CGIs give you an idea of the landscaping and how the overall proposal would look. In terms of car parking, the number of car parking spaces has been reduced from 32 to 28. However, there has been a reduction in the number of bedrooms proposed, and the ratio between the car parking spaces to care home bedrooms would remain as existing. The substation would no longer be in the wavelength zone for water and electric, and it's now located in the northern corner, if I get it up here, in northern corner, and it's easily accessible by utility providers. UK Power Network had no objection to it. In terms of the other conditions, ecology, access and noise, these are remaining as existing. However, there have been updated reports and drawings due to the change in ownership. All the consultees are satisfied with the information provided. So the proposed alterations to the proposed scheme as considered above are considered acceptable and would provide a high quality accommodation for future occupiers of the care home. It is therefore considered that planning permission for the proposed variations shall be approved, subject to conditions set out in section 7.2 of this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Open for clarifications. Anybody? Alex?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Do you mind just going to the slide with the basement on it? Thanks. And so, is that there are no actual sort of residential units in the basement? It's just for sort of services and things like that.
No, so the basement is completely for the back, so no residential. Even in the rooms at the staff room, there is a light well there to provide natural light into them rooms in the basement as well.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was a little bit confused by the written report where on page 15 it said expansion of force space including basement accommodation. I wasn't sure if that meant accommodation of places to live or accommodation just in.
Yeah, no, it's just out of the back. Not
okay, good.
Residential.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Any more? No? Okay. Well, we'll go straight into, we've got John McClellan from Barchester Healthcare. would you like to come forward and press the button on the front, and you have 3 minutes? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is John McElholm and I am a Senior Property Development Manager at Barchester Healthcare, speaking in support of this application. Barchester currently operate over 200 care homes across the UK, and we are delighted to bring forward a scheme in Billericay. The new home will provide 24-hour support and care for the frail elderly, meeting a range of residential, nursing and dementia care needs. It will offer state-of-the-art facilities and operate to the highest care standards. As your officers have outlined, the principle of developing a care home in the site has already been established. The proposed changes that we have put forward in this minor amendment application will allow the care home to meet our bespoke operational and staffing requirements and those of the Care Quality Commission. The changes include a general reorganisation of the internal layout to improve the efficiency and quality of the living accommodation. This in turn results in some minor adjustments to the approved elevations, as well as an overall reduction in the capacity of the care home from 76 to 64 bedrooms. Importantly, however, the proposed revisions align with the parameters of the original scheme in terms of its footprint, layout, height, general design aesthetic and car parking provisions. We have worked closely with your planning and design officers through a planning performance agreement to ensure that the proposed changes have their full support. Each of the environmental and technical reports referenced in the original permission have been updated to reflect the revised scheme, and the details have been agreed with the relevant consultees. We have also engaged further with local communities and will continue to do so as the project progresses. We are committed to delivering this much needed facility at the earliest opportunity, not only in providing high quality care accommodation, but also in delivering jobs for local people and ensuring that our scheme is integrated into the local community. Our intention is to commence demolition works early in the new year and to commence above ground works in the summer. The home will therefore be operational towards the end of 2026. We welcome your officers' support, our positive recommendation, and hope you will be able to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKellum. Can we now open it up for questions? Anybody got any questions on this? No? Okay, I think it's fairly straightforward. You know, we welcome these care homes in the community because they're much needed. Anybody else?
Chris, can you just turn the mic off them?
Ah.
Thank you.
Especially for dementia care, so I haven't any problems with this. Okay, no more questions, so we go straight into the recommendations. The planning application number 240020 VAR be approved subject to the conditions set out in section 7.2 of this report, with any amendments that might be necessary up to the issues of the decision notice. All those in favour, please show. I think that's unanimous. We haven't got any abstentions. Thank you. That's granted. Moving on to item 5. Variation of conditions 2, approved plans, condition 14 car parking conditions, 15 cycle parking conditions, 16 car parking management plan and conditions, 18 blue badge parking of planning permission, 19015024 allowed on appeal, reference APP V1 505W20 erection of 2 6-storey blocks to provide 122 apartments, 76 one-bed and 46 two-bed units with a part basement, part elevated car park to provide 132 spaces with associated access and infrastructure at 3 531 Rumwell Road, Wickford. And I believe that's you, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Technical pitch. Yes, it relates to an application, a variation application to vary 4 conditions, and it's specifically to do with the car parking on the site. So the site itself, the next slide, is located on the north side of Rumwell Road within the Wickford Town Centre. It's currently being redeveloped in the form of 2 blocks of 6-storey flats containing 122 units. It's nearly complete or roof level, but it's not going to be occupied for about another year, I believe. So the site, if you go to the next slide, is surrounded by the Wickford and tennis and cricket clubs to the north. You've got commercial properties to the south and west. And if you go to the next slide, so it just shows you what it's looking like at the moment. It's quite a sizable building, but it was allowed on appeal in 2021. So the applicants say have got to the stage where they are now. They're now reviewing the car parking arrangements on the ground floor, which is to be 2 levels. If we go to the next slide, so the original, these are the approved plans. So you've got the flats on the ground floor facing the roadway with car parking on this slide on the lower level, and then the next slide they've got a kind of slightly raised ramp to an upper level. So they've looked at the setup as it is, but they've noticed a number of issues regarding columns where parking spaces are proposed. Also ease of access around particularly blue badge type spaces, making sure they're wheelchair accessible, as well as party wall arrangements along the rear boundary and fire regulations to the boundary, so they've had to set some of the spaces off that. So they're looking at rejigging the car park, which is the next one. So probably if you've got the flat blocks on there on the bottom bit. Most of the changes are in that area where they've had to rejig, like I say, the arrangements of the disabled spaces, make sure you can get wheelchair accessible. The doorways from the stairwells and that some of the car parking spaces originally proposed were going to block those, so they've had to rejig it, and that's actually proposed to reduce the parking spaces overall by about 14. Still around about 118 spaces, roughly 0.97 per unit. But within that area, they are providing more additional cycle spaces, areas for motorised two-wheelers, motorbikes and the like. And so, overall, the scheme will reduce the number of parking spaces, but it is a town centre location. The Highway Authority doesn't feel that it would lead to any issues, given the location, traffic arrangements, and because there still will only be 180 spaces, vehicles potentially coming in and out, be less than what was originally approved on appeal. There were objections raised by the Wickford Town Council to the scheme. I think it's more of an overall scheme in terms of electric vehicle charging points, but they are a condition that will have to be met as part of the scheme, and there will be provision to meet the relevant building control standard, so they are meeting that. Another objection was received from a resident regarding impact on surrounding parking areas. However, there are parking restrictions in the area, so anybody would be aware they couldn't park in those areas and have to go to either public car parks close by. So overall, it's, you know, whilst there would be a reduction, it's not felt it would lead to any issues. And as I say, the various conditions are kind of basically related to specific aspects. So the car parking arrangement, the blue badge provision, and car parking management. And it's not felt there's any issues, and it's been recommended for the committee's approval, subject to the changes in various conditions set out in the report, and the requirement for a deed of variation, which relates to the Section 106 requirements, and make sure they're still tied in with the permission, and that would need to be varied and agreed with our legal team. So it's over to you. Cheers.
Okay, then. Yeah, okay. Have we any clarifications from anyone? Alex.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, David. Just on condition 16, the car parking management plan, with access onto the site using traffic lights. It doesn't say out in the report where the traffic lights are going to be, just on the ramps, or are we actually on the road itself to allow access onto the site?
It would be on the site itself, actually at the entrance to the site, so off the highway, and actually as you come into the site, a car will be able to set in off the highway, and it'll be in that sort of area. So there won't be the intention is there won't be any overhanging by vehicles waiting at that traffic light, and then they would be directed either upwards if their space is upwards or downwards, and then inside the site there'd be a traffic system which would come on red to make sure that they don't come up at the same time as they're going down, and vice versa. So that looks quite tricky, but I think I know one where I live, they've got a single ramp, and that doesn't seem to cause any issues there.
Just based on that, in that management plan, obviously, if something does happen to a traffic lights, and say, because obviously people live there, going to go to work and something like that, if they break down on a traffic management plan, is there anything in there in the condition of what they're going to do to? Because obviously it's a blind ramp, by the way I look at it, on going down especially, and whether or not the management plan actually includes sort of 24-hour call out, and because otherwise you're going to create a carnage on Runwell Road if no one can see if they're coming in or out of a.
I'd say I haven't got specifics in front of me, but I'm sure there would be a like any management plan, and you need to make sure there's such arrangements that whether they're 24 hours or within reason. I mean, there's need to be make sure you got call out and the appropriate technical people, but they would be part of the plan. Yes.
Okay, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on the point around that, you've mentioned that sort of it will direct you to where there are spaces. No, I may have heard that wrong there. You may be answering my question before I answer it. But yeah, I would imagine that as this is a residential car park, there would be sort of permits and stuff. Otherwise, anybody could go in and park for the town centre.
It's the part of the management plan is only people who have got residents have got spaces within the car parks, and they would then be allocated upper or lower, and that's when, let's say, the entrance, if they knew they were going upper, then they would be directed up, and vice versa down. So that's part of the management plan.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's what I thought it would be. Just wanted clarification on that.
Any more clarifications, anyone? I have one, and that is there any electric charging points there?
Yeah, so there's nothing. These conditions don't relate to electric charging points, but there is a condition as part of the original approval, and they would be submitted in the normal way, and they would need to meet the relevant building regulations requirements in terms of numbers and locations within that car parking area. So there will be provision to the appropriate standard, yes.
If there's no one got anything else to say, we will go straight into the recommendation, which is that the planning application number 2401084 VAR be approved subject to the planning conditions as amended where necessary, attached to 19015024, granted on appeal. Appeal reference APP V1505 W203251827 and a deed of variation in respect of a planning agreement under section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990 as amended. All those in favour, please show. I think that's granted. No abstentions and against. Thank you. We now go into item 6, which is a variation of condition 2, approved drawings, 3, soft landscaping plan, and 5, maintenance plan of planning reference 21014134. Installation of 8 times modular test units and associated plant substation, service, bridge and associated development to regularise the SUD scheme at Ford's Research and Engineering Centre, West Main, Dunton, Basildon, Essex. And I think that is you, Thomas, isn't it? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the application site relates to a former manager's car park at the Ford Research and Engineering Centre at Dunton. The application proposes a variation to conditions 2, 3 and 5, which were attached to the original planning permission. And this is to allow for the regularisation of the drainage scheme and the submission of details which relate to soft landscaping and a maintenance plan. And therefore, because of the variation, there are no objections in principle. So this just shows a aerial view of the site, and then some site photos, which is already showing some of the soft landscaping that is on there, which is part of the scheme. And then this is the approved site plan, so there's no changes to the approved site plan for the modular test units. So there's no changes to the layout design of those. And then there's a couple of technical drawings to do with the drainage plans for the site. So this just shows the northern part of the site, and then the southern end of the site to do with drainage. And so the changes to the drainage scheme involve removing a gravel trap and replacing this with a below ground tank which is beneath the hard standing. The application is also accompanied by a maintenance plan which was a requirement of condition 5 on the original application, and Essex County Council have raised no objections to the application. So let's just move on to the landscaping plans. And so one of the other conditions attached to the original planning permission was condition 3, and this required the submission of details of a soft landscaping scheme with a 3-to-1 replacement for tree planting scheme. And so 3 trees were proposed to be removed, which are the 3 on the left-hand picture. So there's currently 5 there, and it's trees 1, 2 and 3. It's a bit more difficult to see on this slide. So they would all be replaced, and then an additional 6 trees are proposed on the site as well. On top of this, there's an update sheet, and this just proposes a small amendment to the wording of condition 3, which includes revision numbers on the drawings that have been submitted, which were just missed off in the initial drafting of the conditions. And so, in conclusion, the application is recommended to members for approval, subject to the conditions identified at the end of the officer report, on pages 55 to 57 of the agenda pack, along with the amendment on the update sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Have we any clarifications? No questions? Right. Okay. So we go straight into the planning application. Any questions on that? Anybody? No? Right. That planning application number 24005662 VAR be granted planning permission subject to the conditions set out at the end of the report with any amendments that might be necessary up to the issue of the decision notice. All those in favour, please show. I think that's unanimous. Thank you, Thomas. Now we come to item number 7, which is modification of planning obligations section 106 agreement dated the 12th of the 2nd 24 pursuant to the application 22011434 to modify the share ownership definition at land north of Bowles Close, London Road, Pitsea, Basildon. I think that's you now, Dave.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So it relates to sites coming up. The site in Bowles, north of Bowles Close in Pitsea, it's a short distance from Pitsea, is currently being redeveloped in the form of 31 dwellings. As part of the permission granted earlier this year, there was a provision of 12 affordable dwellings, 4 of which were for shared ownership, and the site's been acquired by Sempre Homes, and they are providing the remainder of the units as following funding from English Homes England as shared ownership units. They've noted that on the original planning obligation there's a definition in respect of the shared ownership aspect of the scheme previously approved, and that had a limit that the shared ownership units should not be available unless you acquired 25%. That doesn't now accord with the recommendation of Homes England, and they are looking at trying to modify that as part of this agreement that we'll bring forward to yourselves. The wording as set out in pages 4.5 on page 62, just one section where it's changed. The shared ownership units of not less than 10% equity would be available for those who wish to buy, and that would bring it in line with the remainder of the site. So it's all that just a very minor change to the obligation, and therefore the recommendation is that the deed of variation application be agreed to allow the definition as set out in Part 1 of Schedule 2, as set out in the report on page 63. And that's it. A nice and simple one.
Thank you, Dave. Any clarifications, anyone? Chris?
Thank you, Chair. I should probably exclude myself again with regards to the link to Sempre Homes. Thank you.
Okay, any clarification from anyone? Right, Alex?
It's not a clarification as such, but I mean, just makes sense, doesn't it? So that's me done, really.
Don't want me to tell you off, do you? No clarifications? Right. Okay, so we can then open it up for anybody who'd like to speak on it. No? Okay. We go straight into the recommended that the committee resolves that the deed of variation application 240001 S106C be agreed to allow for the definition set out in Part 1.1 to Schedule 2 affordable housing on-site provision of the S106 agreement pursuant to planning permission reference 22011434 to be amended to the following. I don't think you want me to read that out, so because we don't want anybody complaining afterwards. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. There's no abstentions or anything. I think there was just Councillor Elliott. Yeah. Okay. I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I don't think we've got none till January now, and a Happy New Year. Kevin, I need you a minute.